ensure peace and harmony in our community now and always.
Our land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather today is the land traditionally used by the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Chinootan people. We acknowledge the enduring presence and deep traditional knowledge and philosophies of the Indigenous peoples with whom we share this land today. Are there any declaration of a pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. We have some minutes. Need a motion that the following minutes be adopted as presented. Minutes of the April 14th, 2026 council meeting. Minutes of the April 28th, 2026 committee of the whole meeting. Got a mover for that, please? Councillor Seven, second by Councillor Wagner. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. No petitions, presentations, public meeting. Committee of the whole. I need a motion that council rise and go into the committee of the whole to receive reports and recommendations. Moved by Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget. All in favor, and that's carried. And we'll hand it over to Planning and Development, Councillor Brick.
Thank you, Mayor. We will start with a staff presentation. Steve Weaver of the GSP Group to speak on the former Wellesley Arena and Community Center lands proposed concept options.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. Good to be back with you again with an update on the Arena Lands study. We have a few slides just to provide an update on where we're at with the step 2 process, which is focusing on the development of some optional development concepts for the property. Just to kick things off, I'll do a bit of recap on where we started off and some of the results of the first step. And then I'll turn it over to Evelyn to walk you through the concepts. And then after she's given you that overview, I'll wrap things up with a brief summary of next steps, and then we're available for any questions you may have. You're familiar with the project team, which is we've enjoyed working with your staff to develop these options, and we'll be taking them out to the public if you're supportive of the recommendation of the report tonight. And in addition to Evelyn and myself, we have a few others in our office that have been assisting with some of the more detailed review of examples from other places, as well as some of the design work and the graphics that you see. The next slide. So I mentioned there was a previous stage of work that led us here. And in step 1, we focused on the background research. We met with a number of interest groups, and we attended the community barbecue and had some drop-in opportunities as well as presentations to round out the community engagement. And that took a broader look at what are the objectives for the site, what are some things we need to consider, what's the historical context, and what are the priorities of the community. And that ultimately culminated in a series of guiding principles. Step 2, then you can see in the last 3 circles on the graph there on the timeline. The concept development is where we're at right now. And again, we're here to provide an overview of the options that we've come up with. The next step, if council supports going to the next community engagements, would be to focus on getting feedback on those options, ultimately to inform the evaluation and review of those options to develop a preferred direction. And once a preferred direction has been determined in conjunction with further review with the community and staff, we would be back to present that final plan. The next slide. So the overall purpose of tonight's presentation, again, is to review the results of the concept options that we developed, give you an overview to ensure you're familiar with them and the range of things that those have explored. Also to discuss briefly how those have responded to those guiding principles that were developed in step 1. And again, to request your direction to proceed with public engagement on those concept options. Next slide. So some key community directions from what we heard from step one. There were a number of consistent themes that helped inform the concept development process. There was strong support for maintaining a public and community-oriented focus for the land while preserving flexibility for recreation, events, and gathering spaces. Residents also emphasized the importance of accessibility, site functionality, maintaining adequate parking and circulation, ensuring future development remains compatible with Wellesley's low-density village character and the surrounding context. And these themes help to inform the development of the concepts that you'll see as part of the presentation. Next slide. So we've just put some clip art here to show graphically what some of the what all of the guiding principles represent. One of them was about public stewardship and recreation-led use. Again, that goes back to that community theme of maintaining some public utilization of the site, that it be community-oriented, inclusive, and safe. Accessibility and design for universal accessibility is another guiding principle that emerged from that work. Year-round opportunities were also identified. So a combination of indoor and outdoor. Again, we've been focusing primarily on the north part of the site, that 3 or 4 acres that where the arena and community hall sit, mostly not touching the wall diamonds and the park area to the south. That the uses of the site should be distinct and complementary, that they should be different than and not duplicate anything that you're doing at the Bill Geese Center. That has really become a key community hub for specific types of recreation and something for everybody there. That if housing opportunities are explored for the site, those should be meeting some kind of niche need, whether it's affordability or seniors or a combination of those things. Given the opportunity as the landowner to support some additional housing unique to those needs. That the overall design and massing and look of the development should fit within the area context and within the context of Wellesley Village. That we need to ensure that enough parking is maintained for not only the day-to-day functions of the site, but consideration of events. Financial factors will be a big influence as well. And not only from a capital investment perspective, but also looking at opportunities for potential revenue generation through partnerships, and also considering the operational needs of the site on the go forward. And then ultimately working together with the community and other providers to explore potential co-location opportunities as well. So you'll see some of these ideas emerge in the concepts that we'll present. And at this point, then I'll turn it over to Evelyn to walk you through those. Thanks.
Next slide, please. So this is a slide that shows the existing site context. As you can see on the site that today there is a former arena, a community hall, recreation amenities, and the existing parking areas. The existing conditions of the site as of today is heavily influenced by surface parking areas and hardscapes associated with the former arena use, which limits the opportunities for like landscape integration and pedestrian oriented open spaces. So while we were exploring the different concept, one thing that we consistently kept in mind was to explore across all concept was the opportunity to improve the overall public realm conditions of the site through increased landscaped areas and stronger pedestrian connections and a more integrated open space. Next slide, please. So this is option 1A. So option 1A represents the lowest intensity in a redevelopment approach, trying to prioritize the open space preservation, This is the option where you'll see the demolition of the existing arena, which is outlined in red on the top, while retaining the community hall and the storage building. The former arena footprint is to repurpose into a large open space event, roughly about 27,000 square feet, designed to accommodate flexible community uses such as markets or festivals and seasonal programming. The concept maintains existing parking amenities, the current parking supply, which is approximately 232 parking spaces. And it involves low capital investment and continued public access to open space while enabling a range of informal and programmed activities. The revenue potential for this concept is limited and primarily associated with event rentals and community programming. Next slide. This is the next slide.
Yeah.
So option 1B builds upon option 1A by introducing a modest community serving uses, including a library and a daycare, while retaining the community hall. So building from that community hall, now we are adding the library and the daycare. The arena and the storage building are removed, and the site continues to provide an open space event, although slightly reduced in size, about 24,000 square feet. Parking is reduced to approximately 175 spaces to accommodate the additional building area. This option presents a low to moderate intervention scenario that enhances community services and while maintaining a strong open space concept. The revenue potential is moderate and may be generated through program fees, lease, and partnership models with service providers. Next slide. This is the option where we option 2, which is more like a clean slate. Just to remind everyone, we are not touching the south side of the site. All our concept development is focused on the north side. So this is the option where we are calling it the multi-use cultural library and childcare center. This concept introduced a fully redeveloped civic-focused site, replacing the existing structures with a consolidated and integrated multi-use building that includes what we're calling it the cultural center, library, and the daycare. An open space is also retained along with existing outdoor recreational amenities. Parking is reduced to approximately 161 spaces to accommodate the new building space. This option reflects a municipally led, partnership-based, and service-oriented approach, prioritizing community infrastructure and long-term public use. The revenue potential remains moderate, primarily through rental, programming, and potential operational partnerships. This concept proposed to also realign and extend the Maple Leaf Street more directly from the site to connect with Catherine Street, and will include traffic calming measures as well. Next slide. Option 3 is a 3-story mixed-use development, combining community uses with residential and commercial components at grade. The proposal includes 3-story building with cultural library and childcare, same as that you've seen in option 2, and with commercial space and approximately 30 residential units above. This option maintains key community functions while introducing new housing and commercial opportunities. Parking is approximately 213 spaces, involving some reconfiguration, optimizing, and expansion of existing parking. This also involves this also includes 3 different access points to the site from Maple Leaf, Brown Street, and Catherine Street. Maple Leaf Street will terminate at the parking lot of the site. Next concept. Similar to concept 3, this is a 4-story mixed use, same uses at grade, childcare, library, and multi-use cultural center at grade, and with 60 residential dwelling units above. And again, we looked at a parking of approximately 281 spaces. And I also want to note that we also added some outdoor play area for the daycare, and some more integrated open spaces throughout the site, and more landscape buffer to preserve some more trees and stuff. And most of these residential concept that we looked at, we made sure it was away from the street, so it's more internal and not right next to the streets, so that the density is concentrated more internal, not towards the streets. Yeah, and then the next slide, please. I think the next slide was all about the summary of the table. I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to look at that. It was to show the different concepts, and that table basically shows all the scale, the relative cost, the ownership model, and the potential revenue. So just a comparison to better understand what those different concepts would look like.
Coming up.
Okay, so I think I can just move on to the next step. So, summary, step 2, introduce a range of concept options informed by the community feedback and the guiding principles that we established through step 1. And this next phase will, and then with these concepts, what we want to do is just to get more feedback from the council and the public, and go back, get some work on these concepts, get refined based on the feedback we have seen. But yeah, this is the table. Yeah, this is a concept option comparison summary that is, we can see the different levels of intervention that is required for each of these concepts, and the potential revenue that could be generated off these. And from a high level, we put the cost as a relative cost of revenues out of those. As of our next step, there will be 2 engagement sessions that are scheduled for May 19th and May 21st. And then along with some online engagement opportunities to get some feedback that will help us inform the refinement and identification of a preferred concept moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Steve.
Really, we're here to take any questions you have, but you can see how the options explore different levels of site development from the first one, which is primarily oriented to events and open space use, and maintaining much of the existing parking to continue to support the park uses, all the way across to option 4, where you're talking about a significantly higher level of investment in actual built infrastructure on the site. And the other key change that we want to emphasize that would entail is, option 1, purely open for public use. The community hall would be reopened for a variety of uses that can't otherwise be accommodated at the Bill Geese Center. But everything is broadly open to the public at large. When you introduce a daycare and library use, those are very specialized uses, quasi-public in that not everybody would necessarily use those facilities, but It would be an opportunity for expanded and more modern offerings that are still community oriented, still community services, and still provide the opportunity for education and programming and fee generation and partnership. Really great site for those kinds of uses when you think about how walkable and central it is. But then there could then be some limitations on larger events and things that would disrupt those day-to-day activities. And then the other opportunity that we've explored through this is the potential introduction of even more of a private or exclusive use, which is a residential and commercial use. So commercial in the context that it could serve the functioning of the park, the functioning of the site, communities, complementary to community services, maybe even some basic service to the residential units that would go together with that. But the residential specifically oriented to meeting a defined community need, affordability, seniors housing. Again, a great location in that it's central in the village, walkable to the downtown area, and a nice location in terms of having direct proximity to the outdoor components with the park, and really then something for everybody. And in all cases, we're again trying not to do anything that would be a direct, competition or conflict with what's at the Bill Geese Center as your outdoor recreation venue. In the park itself, we mentioned a couple of times that we weren't really adjusting anything there. There was one opportunity where we saw, I think the dog park, the leash-free dog park, for example, is between the outfields of the ball diamonds. As soccer is now transitioned to the Bill Geese Center, there is more field space available, so you could relocate the dog park as an example. I'm sure there are other opportunities to revisit and optimize some of those outdoor areas as things have moved over to the Bill Geese Center, but something that we haven't fully explored through this study, but could go hand in hand. And then maybe the last point I'll make is that as we move from a variety of options to trying to determine a preferred direction, it may borrow bits and pieces from each of these, or may even look like a short-term plan evolving to a long-term plan. You could certainly still do some of the things in options 3 and 4, for example, in a longer-term context, while only doing option 1 or 2 at the beginning. So these can build on each other, and recognizing that option 4 would take a lot more planning and capital and partnership and agreement and those things to come together, versus there are some quick wins that could be done more quickly, taking the arena building down, opening the site up for more open space, those kinds of things. So lots to think about, but we're excited to get your feedback on this as well as the community's feedback, so we can gauge those reactions and then sit back down and come up with a preferred plan.
Thank you, Steve. Any comments or questions from council at this time?
I do, if council want to go first.
So first, go ahead, Claude.
Does anyone remember how many online surveys were filled out? Just offhand.
200,
110, 140?
I'm going to say that I'm going to hazard a guess it was somewhere between somewhere in around 250.
Okay.
I would say something like that. Yep.
Questions, comments? Yeah, Joe?
Just a couple thoughts. You mentioned the current soccer fields. So I'm assuming, or I think it would be wise to consider getting some public input on those, on what they're going to look like at some point. I know that's not part of your, that wasn't part of your responsibilities here, but I think that would be, I mean, it would go hand in hand, because I think people would like to see the whole picture. I don't know whether you'd be able to do anything like in the short term for that. Like, I know it's not hard.
Through the chair to Mayor Nowak, I think as we'll have graphics for the entire site, and we're talking to everybody who's interested in this, We did get some feedback from the first stage where people were asking more questions, more about the park component, or have more of an interest in outdoor sports and those types of activities. So we're definitely open to collecting and gathering that input, and that's a type of question we can put out to people as we're talking with them to get their thoughts about it. And there may ultimately need to be some recommendations in the plan here to continue to move that conversation forward about what else could be packaged in the outdoor area of the park to make sure that there's a compatible and complementary use of any underutilized spaces now that some of the sporting uses have been moved over to the new center.
Yeah, I think it'd be important for people to see the whole concept. So maybe when we're doing the presentations, that could be a question that you could bring forward and ask people what they think might, how those spaces could be used best utilized. You mentioned the dog park, that's probably one, but there was some at one point there was some talk about the upper soccer field that could be used for like a park area. You know, maybe trees and that sort of thing, and benches, and so it'd be nice to see that bigger picture. The other question I was thinking about as you're going through, you know, we're planning for the future with this. So I don't know whether some sort of comment to that extent should be part of your program. Like, we're going to be growing to, it's another 5,000 people, 5,100 people. I think 4,000. Oh, I think it's a little higher than that. But anyway, or maybe it's by 50, 51. Yeah, it's another 1,400 people that are going to be moving into town. I think 600 new homes. So we are expanding, and I think it's important that somehow that's reflected, and that we're not just planning for today, we're planning for the future as well. So I think that's really important.
Other questions? Just to comment, I think I've been excited to see this one coming forward, and I think we're on a good path. So thank you for the presentation today, and I really do hope that the public picks it up. And I like the concepts is that they're simple, but they're not, they're understandable, and then they're a really good start. So hopefully we can use our social media and that to push that out. I do think the next stage is as important, and kind of people will visualize and see words, and you know, we'll get a lot. So I think next week will be kind of a crash course, but probably more opportunity to keep engaging. I'm assuming the Engage page will get updated with this, so hopefully that platform pushes that to people. But yeah, I'm excited to see this moving forward, and I do appreciate the work staff and your group have done to get to where we are today. And I think there's a really good cross sect of different ideas. And like you say, if we can start pulling those pieces, we're building towards something really good here and for the future of the community. And the space is only going to become more valuable as time goes on and the community grows. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just to add that I don't think we have to be in a rush to make any sort of decision on this. Let's take our time and make sure we hear from the community, and you know, then we can get some. Take our time.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to P&D 4/2026, the former Wellesley Arena and Community Center lands, proposed concept and options. I need a motion that the Council of the Township of Wellesley receive this report for information, and further that the council directs staff to initiate public engagement on the proposed concept as outlined in this report. May I have a mover? Councillor Seven, seconder, Councillor Wagner. Does staff have anything to add?
Just to reiterate, excuse me, the engagement we're proposing. So as of tomorrow, if the motion passes tonight, then we're prepared to press play on the engagement page, right? The concepts will be available there for people to look at, and we're also pushing it out on social media quite a bit. There's been several ads in the newspaper now, I think 2 or 3. So I think it's fairly well known out there that we're doing this. And then the 2 in-person engagements next week. And then we haven't set a date when we're going to close online engagement. I think we're just going to going to leave it open for the time being. Like, we're not going to, it's not 10 days or 2 weeks, or, it'll certainly be at least a month. We just wanted to get that out there in the springtime. We didn't want to release things in the summer when people are, away on holidays, not necessarily always thinking about municipal items. So that's just kind of an idea of what we're going to start with. So that's all. Thank you, Councillor.
Sounds good. Questions for staff, Claude?
Just for the people online or that are going to watch this later, can you give the dates and times and locations of those?
Sure. So I have to flip to my report, but tomorrow, so May 13th, we'll get it up sometime in the morning so people can go to the Engage Wellesley page. You can just search Engage Wellesley, and there should be a link there to the Wellesley Arena lands. May 9th, we'll be at the Bill Geese Center. Somebody helped me out, 6:30. Sorry, May 19th, 6:30. Is that, 6:30 till 8:30, or for however long people want to talk to us for. And then we'll be doing the same presentation, same spiel in St. Clements on May 21st. I believe also at 6:30 at the arena, at the community center.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions of staff? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried unanimous.
Okay, we will move right down to admin and finance. And once again, we have a staff presentation. Peter Simcisco, I hope I got that right, with Watson and Associates with regard to the 2026 Asset Management Program Progress Report.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be joining you once again. It seems like I was here just yesterday, but I realize it was about a year ago, at about this time last year, that I was here to present the asset management plan. So we do have, I don't have a traditional presentation, but I'm planning to use the report that's in front of you today as a bit of a backdrop to some of what I'll be speaking to. And really the purpose of me being here is to provide some additional context for this asset management progress report, and then to provide some highlights in terms of what's in there and some of the key features and findings of the report. So just to go back in time a little bit, if we could go to the, I think, 2 slides forward to the introduction page right there. So as council might recall, the township prepared a comprehensive asset management plan last year. That asset management plan was done in alignment with the provincial regulations. That's Regulation 58817, which required all municipalities across the province to prepare those plans. The key sections of that asset management plan include a state of infrastructure section, which provides general summary information on the various assets that the township owns and is responsible for, their replacement cost valuation, what we know about their condition, and replacement value. The next major section of the asset management plan are proposed levels of service. So recognizing that the assets in terms of roads and facilities and vehicles and equipment are not typically ends in themselves, they're a means for the township to provide services to the public. The levels of service section sets out the expectations around what level of service those assets are expected to provide, both today and over the 10-year forecast horizon of the asset management plan. The third major element of the asset management plan is a life cycle management strategy, which looks at what life cycle activities in terms of asset renewal, rehabilitation, and replacements the township needs to plan for to keep those assets in a state of good repair and to ensure that they're able to provide the level of service that we set out in the asset management plan. Of course, those life cycle activities in terms of, again, asset rehabilitation, renewal, replacement come at a cost. And so the final kind of pillar of the asset management plan is this financial strategy, which proposed or laid out a proposed plan for how the township will pay for the life cycle expenditures that are expected to come up over the next 10 years, but also puts the township on a path towards kind of financial sustainability. So recognizing that the assets many of them are long-lived, and while some of them may not require any investment over the next 10 years, we need to plan for the full life cycle of the assets as well. So again, that's just a brief recap of what's in that 2025 asset management plan. We can go to the next page of the report then. So in terms of the progress report that's in front of you today, this is something very new. It is a requirement of Regulation 58817 as well, and which says that after a municipality approves the comprehensive asset management plan, in the following year and every year thereafter, council has to review the progress that's being made in implementing that asset management plan. They also have to look at any factors that might be hindering progress and then to discuss a strategy for addressing those factors. So this is something very new. Most municipalities across the province are just in their first round of preparing these progress reports to really start tracking and monitoring whether things are generally going in accordance with the plan. When we think about progress in implementing the asset management plan, I think it ultimately comes down to two main factors, and that's one, are the levels of service tracking towards the targets that were set out within the asset management plan? So that's one major aspect of progress or implementation of the asset management plan. And then the second major aspect is the financial strategy. So are the funds being made available through the annual budget process to ensure that the township can implement the life cycle activities needed to sustain the proposed levels of service? So those are the two key kind of lenses through which we look at whether progress is being made. In addition to that, I think we want to recognize that the asset management plan and specifically the information underneath that is very much a living kind of entity, right? Because there are constantly changes to what assets you own because assets are being disposed or purchased or constructed, or there are investments being made into repair or rehabilitation of those assets as well. So their condition is constantly changing as well. And so while it's not necessarily a measure of progress, we also wanted to highlight through this report the changes that are occurring to the township's asset portfolio in terms of what we know about the replacement value of those assets and how that's evolving, quantities of assets, their condition, and so on. And so that's highlighted within the progress report as well, even though, again, it's not necessarily explicitly a measure of progress. So in terms of the major sections within the report, then I won't go through every page here this evening, but just wanted to provide a few highlights. If we can go to the 2 pages forward here to the asset portfolio summary. So just wanted to highlight that as of last year, the replacement valuation of the township's assets was about $387 million. That includes all of the assets, again, roads, bridges and culverts, facilities, vehicles and equipment, really everything that you own that's tangible at least. In terms of the 2026 valuation, so we have worked closely with staff to update the asset inventory information. In some cases, we've applied inflationary adjustments to those capital cost estimates or replacement cost estimates. In other cases, the township has received quotes, for example, for the replacement of certain assets, so we just have better information on what it would cost to replace or rebuild them today. So those updates have resulted in an updated valuation of that asset inventory as of 2026. That's been estimated at about $416 million, which represents an increase of about 7.6% relative to the 2025 valuation. I think what's interesting to point out there is that we were, in developing the asset management plan, expecting there to be upward pressure on the replacement value of the asset inventory, just purely based on inflation. And we were expecting that inflationary pressure to be about 4.4% per year. But what we're seeing with this kind of revaluation of the asset portfolio is that the updated replacement value is landing somewhat higher than that estimate of inflation. And that's to be expected. I think that's a trend we're seeing across municipalities as these initial asset management plans got implemented and municipalities continue to invest into data quality improvements, right? So there are refinements of the asset inventory that are going to continue to happen year after year. And it's one of the reasons why it's important to continue monitoring how that's evolving. And so again, the current replacement cost valuation of the township's asset portfolio is landing somewhat higher than what we were estimating for 2026. And it is contributing to some updates to the financial strategy, which I'll speak to in a bit more detail later in the presentation. So that's the portfolio level summary, what follows in section 2.1 of the report are further details of that by asset class. So in this case, as an example, you'll see that asset portfolio valuation broken down, the changes within that valuation broken down for roads and road related assets, with some explanation below the charts as to what's contributing to those changes. So in some cases, there have been, again, new quotes obtained, which give us a better understanding of the replacement cost. In some cases, we've added some assets to the inventory because maybe they were missed when the initial inventory was put together, or just new assets that were purchased or otherwise acquired. So again, there's a detailed breakdown for each individual asset category. So I think we can scroll down through the following pages. I think the next one is looking at structure, so bridges and culverts, stormwater infrastructure. The one item I'd like to actually highlight on the stormwater section, as noted at the bottom of the page, is that one thing we realized when going through this update process was that the municipal drains are not currently captured within the asset management plan. There is a township share of costs that might arise when those municipal drains require maintenance or rehabilitation. And so that's one of the recommendations, is to, over the coming years, kind of look at adding those municipal drains, or the township's share of those municipal drains, into the asset management plan as well, so that they can be added to the financial strategy as well. The following section looks at facilities, followed by parkland amenities, and then we have the fleet and equipment section after that. So that summarizes the state of infrastructure chapter of the report. And then next we get into the second major section, which are levels of service. So again, levels of service are different metrics that have been included within the asset management plan that allow us to look at what is the level of service that's supported by these various assets. We can look at levels of service through various lenses. It could be looking at what is the quality of the asset in terms of their condition, for example, and that's something you'll see in the road section, which we'll look at in a second. In other cases, it's more about quantity. So how much facility space, for example, do we have available on a per capita basis within the community, or how many parkland amenities do we have? So there are different lenses through which we can look at the levels of service. There was quite a bit of work that went into capturing those levels of service through the development of the 2025 asset management plan. And so what we've done with this progress report is identified how those levels of service are changing. So if we could go to the next page, just to provide a very illustrative example, when we think about roads, the key level of service indicator typically, this is across all municipalities, is the condition, in this case, the average condition of the paved roads, which is measured through the pavement condition index. So there was some work that went into kind of capturing what the existing condition of that road network was when the asset management plan was developed. That was about 73.6, pavement condition index of about 73.6, which is very good condition. But the target was set at an average of about 75. And as you can see with the little chart on the left, top left-hand side of this page here, based on current estimates, that condition has slightly improved. And that's a result of some of the investments that have been made into road reconstructions over the course of 2025. So that's the idea, again, with the progress reporting, is to look at whether that level of service is moving towards the targets that we set out within the asset management plan. And in the case of paved roads, that appears to be the case. So that's very positive. Of course, from time to time, there will be some formal reassessments of the entire road network, which might kind of capture changes both in terms of improvements, but some of the continued degradation that occurs naturally to roads as well. And there's an update of those condition ratings expected in the coming years. So that information will be captured in the next year's progress report. Just to provide another example on the next page, I think we're focusing on we're zooming in on the gravel roads. As council might recall, one of the level of service targets that was set within the asset management plan was to continue to convert some roads that are currently gravel into a paved surface. In fact, about 25 or so kilometers of roads that are currently gravel were identified for potential conversion. That also aligns with the township's development charges study, which found that, or included, the conversion of approximately that length of gravel roads to pavement, partially in response to increased traffic volumes due to development, but also to provide a higher level of service on those roads. And so There are about 22 kilometers of roads that are currently planned for conversion potentially over the next 10 years or so. Of course, that's continued to be subject to approval through the annual budget process. But currently, the plan is to continue making progress towards that level of service enhancement as laid out within the asset management plan. So that's a couple of examples in terms of roads. When we get to structures, which are on the next page, these are again bridges and culverts. Again, there's a formal condition rating that's available for those. It's the Bridge Condition Index, which is assessed formally every other year. For now, or within this report, we've just estimated the change in the Bridge Condition Index from last year based on some of the improvements that were made, or specifically a structural culvert that was replaced in 2025, and how that influenced the average condition across the bridges and culverts. In the next few sections, we look at facilities and parkland amenities, which are more looked at through a quantitative lens in terms of what's the quantity of facility space on a per capita basis. There were some expansions that were planned within the asset management plan, specifically for public works space and library space over the next 10 years to kind of maintain that level of service. But in other cases, just due to population growth, the amount of facility space that's going to be available on a per capita basis is expected to naturally decline over time. And so generally things are, again, progressing in line with the plan. The last section here I'd like to highlight is fleet and equipment, where the level of service was done by looking at, or expressed rather, by looking at what is the share of assets that are in a fair or better condition, with the intent or level of service target being to not have fleet and equipment assets falling into the poor and very poor condition states, because that's when they start to be potentially less reliable. There's more money being spent on unexpected repairs, and just becomes less economical to maintain those assets. And as of 2025, about 94, just over 94% of the township's fleet and equipment assets were in a fair or better condition. As of 2026, that percentage or proportion has increased to about 97%. So there have been some disposals of some of those older, poor performing assets, and that's resulted in an improvement in the level of service. So again, things are trending in the right direction in that regard. So that brings me to the final section of the progress report, rather, which is the financial strategy section, which mainly looks at, and as council might recall, within the asset management plan, we put a lot of emphasis on understanding what's the level of capital funding that would be considered sustainable, looking at the full life cycle of all of the assets. What we found is that, and this is consistent with every other asset management plan that we've worked on, is that there was an existing funding gap, and the asset management plan laid out a strategy for gradually closing that funding gap over a period of 10 years. And there was a suggested level of capital funding for each year of the forecast period. And so one of the key indicators of progress is whether through the budget process there was the amount of capital funding that was included in the township's 2026 budget is in line with what the asset management plan recommended. And that's illustrated if we go a couple of pages down with a graphic, one more page down there. So what this illustrates with the bars is the suggested level of capital funding that was included in the strategy within the asset management plan. And then what the line shows is what the actual level of capital funding was. So we only have 2 years of actuals, of course, at this point, 2025 and 2026. I wanted to highlight here that the level of capital funding that council approved through the 2026 budget matches exactly what was recommended within the asset management plan. And I know that staff worked hard to make that happen, despite the fact that the amount of external funding, namely through the OCIF, was actually less than what we were expecting for 2026. And so currently, in terms of the financial aspects, things are on par with what the asset management plan recommended. That also means that there will be further increases to capital funding required through future budget cycles as well. So one other thing, or one final thing I'd like to highlight then within the financial strategy is, and this goes back to, again, looking at the asset management plan as a living document. So as I mentioned, we have updated some information, or the asset inventory information, which has given us a more up-to-date snapshot of the total replacement value of the township's asset portfolio. And then we wanted to also make sure that that's reflected within the financial strategy. So if we can go to the next page, this illustrates the funding target that was built into the 2025 asset management plan. That was about $5.46 million in 2025 dollars. And we were looking to achieve that level of funding adjusted for inflation by 2035. What we've done is try to update that funding target. So that funding target looks at the full life cycle of each individual asset and sets out that sustainable level of funding. And with the updates to the asset inventory, we are seeing that that funding target is about $90,000 higher today than we would have estimated it to be as of 2026. So not a huge difference, but these changes do tend to culminate over time. So that's why it's important to monitor this year after year and make incremental adjustments to the financial strategy so that you don't start falling behind and it doesn't require big course correction in 5 years when you do a comprehensive update of the asset management plan. And so what we've then illustrated on the following page is just some proposed changes to the financial strategy, namely the amount of capital funding that should be considered through future budgets and how that has been increased somewhat to accommodate or account for the change in the asset replacement valuation. And so for 2027, we are recommending that the township consider including about $4.7 million of capital funding within its budget. So that would represent an increase of about $400,000 relative to 2026, with about just over $1 million of that coming from external sources like the former gas tax or CCBF and OCIF, and then the remaining $3.7 million or so coming from the tax levy. So that would continue to maintain your path to stay on with the plan as outlined in the 2025 asset management plan. And so there are some technical appendices within the report as well that provide some additional details about the levels of service, including each individual metric that was reported in the asset management plan. But in summary, things are on track with the plan. Again, I know staff have done a lot of work and spent quite a bit of time making sure that the budget reflects what was recommended within the asset management strategy. Staff have also continued to refine the asset information so that we always have the most up-to-date information about what the township owns and what it's costing the township to maintain those assets. And so there have been some changes to the asset valuation as a result of that. But again, overall, things are progressing in alignment with the plan. So that's, in summary, what's within the asset management progress report that's in front of you today. Some version of this is going to come back each and every year after today as well. And the comprehensive update of the asset management plan will be, I guess, 4 years from now as well. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, well, thank you for that presentation. That's a lot of numbers and a lot of information there, so it's much appreciated. Questions from Councilor Brick?
Yes, thanks for that presentation. I echo, there's a lot of numbers in there and it can be fun when you really dig into it. I guess just 2 comments from my perspective. So I do like the graphs that kind of show our levels of service and where they are. I do have some concern with our parkland amenities decreasing over time, and it's not a fix it now, but it's something to think about as we progress. That I think our community is built on the parkland and those amenities, and we have to look at our level of service as, are we okay with it decreasing as our community increases and we need that space? I feel that we need to look at a way to maintain that. So as staff and you guys work on that, I just think that's something to think about and again, we're not going to change it overnight, but I would like to see that a little bit more level. And then the second portion, so the funding part. So I think just come budget time, we're going to probably have forgotten about this presentation. No, we're shaking our heads, no. But I think right now, just seeing it again and maybe just calling it out, is that there are going to be pressures again at budget time for increases to keep that gap. And more of a comment and an awareness that when we're looking at budget time and what that looks like, I think this document really helped this past budget, and it was a really good building point. And I think looking at this, we can already see the pressures for the upcoming budget and what staff are doing. So just kind of recognizing that now that in October, if you want to come back out and give it back the presentation again when staff are looking for the budget increases, I think this will be what we look back to. So just a couple comments from my end, but thank you for this and a lot of interesting information. So thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Just maybe a comment. Councillor Brick pretty well nailed some of the thoughts that I had on this as well. Budget time will be a bit of a challenge, but I think we have to keep in mind that not following that financial plan could be fairly dangerous down the line. I think you see that with other communities around here. You've seen these 10, 15, 20% increases, sometimes suggested 50% increases to the levy. And I think generally, I think that is a result of not following their asset management plan. I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, I guess there's things that could happen that were unexpected, and that's why this is a living document, because you never know what's going to come along the line. But I do appreciate the plan, the financial plan. I think that's very reasonable, and hopefully we can manage that going forward. I think of another asset manager plan that I looked at the region, and where they, especially on roads, where they haven't followed that, or they haven't been able to follow their plan, and now they're doing, they're not being proactive, they're being reactive to some of the work, and that's what could happen with any of those areas that you covered. You don't want to be reactive, you want to be proactive, so that the replacements are done in a timely fashion. So that's just my thoughts on it, and so I appreciate the work that's been done, and young man over here has done a great job on that, so I'll call him out as well. So thank you very much. Any other questions? Nathan. Okay. Thank you very much. Oh, so but there's a recommendation, isn't there? So the motion is that the council of Township of Wellesley accept the 2026 asset management progress report prepared by Watson Associates Economists Limited, dated May 12, 2026, including the updated financial strategy outlined in the report. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Councillor Wagner, second by Councillor Seven. Any further discussion on that? Any comments? Nathan, did you want to mention a few things?
Yeah, I can just thank you, Mayor Nowak and councillors. Just to reiterate what Peter said, the plan is to bring a similar type of report to council before July 1st of every year. And then that will be in time for budget season to really use this financial strategy. And continued work will be done on the asset inventory and on other things to make sure everything's up to date. And yeah, like he said, it's a living document, so we're going to continue at that so that our budgets can be accurate and plan for the future.
Ethan, that's well done. Any other questions to Ethan? Thank you very much. So that's been moved and seconded. Do we have any other comments? All in favor then? And that's carried unanimously as well. We will move to AF&P 22-2026 municipal election compliance audit. Terms of reference, motion required that the council of the Township of Wellesley approve the revised terms of reference for the municipal election compliance audit committee. Moved by Councillor Brick, seconded by Councillor Herget. Just going to bring this report forward.
Thank you, Mayor Nowak. Okay. Establishing a municipal election compliance audit committee is a legislative requirement under the Municipal Elections Act. The committee is established to audit candidate and third-party advertiser campaign finances if an audit is deemed granted by the committee. Recruitment for the committee will be led by the Region of Waterloo with support from the participating municipalities.
Questions? Call the question. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. We will move to recreation. Councillor Wagner.
Thank you. Rec 6 2026 Hawksville Playground Equipment, motion required. recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley approve the installation of a new playground structure at Hawksville Playground, and further, that the amount of 23,000 plus HST be withdrawn from the Hawksville Recreation Service Board account to fund this project. Do I have a mover? Moved by Derek, seconded by Lori. Any discussion on it? Danny, do you have a report you want to bring forward?
Sure, thanks, Councilor Wagner. The report before you is a request of the Hawksville Recreation Service Board to use funds from their fundraising account to fund a new piece of playground equipment at the Hawksville Playground. The new piece of equipment is a spinner where children can ride on the equipment or push it from standing inside or outside of the play feature. It also promotes inclusive play, as the low-profile ring promotes play for children in wheelchairs and promotes balance and social inclusion, as many children can play together on this piece. The equipment would be sourced from Open Space Solutions, the same company that supplied the last structure that was installed in 2024. Upon approval, staff will attend a GRAC meeting to present the project before installation. The equipment could be installed as early as July of this year, pending all approvals. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Does anyone have questions for Danny? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I will call a vote. All in favor of the recommendation? Carried unanimously. Rec 7, 2026, in-ice advertising, motion required. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley approve the implementation of an in-ice advertising program within both arenas, with seasonal advertising rates in both arenas as outlined in this report. And further, that a bylaw amendment be brought forward to council on June 9th, 2026 to incorporate the approved in-ice advertising rates into the township's fees and charges bylaw. Do I have a mover? Councillor Brick, seconded by Councillor Herget. Does the director have a report?
Thank you once again, Councillor Wagner. Staff are proposing adding in-ice advertising in our arenas. This would follow the same model as our wallboard advertising and rink board advertising, where the advertiser pays for the initial ad material in the first year, and then be just invoices for the space of the ad in future years. There is a cost to having these ads made, so the proposal would be not to change these ads out on a yearly basis and allow for the initial ad holder to maintain that spot until they no longer wish. That is the same model we use as the wall advertising and the rink board advertising. Upon approval, staff will start a campaign to reach out to the public about the current advertisers to let them know about these opportunities, and it will then become on a first come, first served basis. Thanks. I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will call a vote. All in favor of the recommendation? Carried unanimously. And that is it for me.
Okay, so I need a motion now that the report of the Committee of the Whole be adopted as set forth in the motions. No, wait a sec. Ahead of myself. I need a motion that the Committee of the Whole rise and council resume and report. Moved by Councillor Wagner, second by Councillor Seven. All in favor, and that's carried. That the report of the Committee of the Whole be adopted as set forth in the motions and actions detailed above. Moved by Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget. All in favor, and that's carried as well. We go to the CAO update.
Thanks, Mayor Nowak. A few things to update council on tonight. The Linwood Health Center construction is progressing nicely. The shell of the building is now framed up, and anticipated opening is in the fall of this year. Planning is underway for the township's 175th anniversary celebrations, which will include a music festival and Toronto Maple Leafs alumni hockey game. And lastly, Director of Recreation Danny Roth has accepted an offer with another municipality. So I want to thank Danny for his years of service with the township here and wish him the very best in the next step in his career.
Any questions? Has the alumni hockey game been confirmed?
It's tentatively confirmed.
Okay.
No contract signed yet.
Politician, aren't you? Regional Council meeting attendance. I need a motion that the Council of the Township of Wellesley authorize all members of council to participate in all councils meeting on June 12th, 2026 at 2 p.m. to be held at the historic City Hall at 46 Dixon Street in the city of Cambridge. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Councillor Seven, second by Councillor Wagner. All in favor, and that's carried. And then I also have a recommendation that the Council of the Township of Wellesley authorize all members of council to attend the backyard barbecue event on Friday, June 19th, 2026 at 5 p.m. at the Township of Wellesley Recreation Complex at 1401 Queensbush Road in Wellesley. Moved by Councillor Brick, second by Councillor Herget. Any discussion on that? All in favor, and that's carried as well. Now we will convene in a motion to go into closed session. I need a motion that this portion of the meeting be closed to the public in order to consider the following: Section 239 3.1 of the Municipal Act, a meeting of council or local board or of a committee of either of them may be closed to public if the following conditions are both satisfied. One, the meeting is held for the purpose of educating or training the members. At the meeting, no member discusses or otherwise deals with any matter in a way that materially advances the business or decision-making of the council, local board, or committee. And this is for the official plan of an information session. So mover for that, please. Councillor Seven, second by Councillor Wagner, all in favor. And that's carried. So we'll take a few minutes to